Hey everybody, this is Christina with Accounting Pros. I am super excited to introduce you to one of my favorite clients today. His name is Ted. He owns a preschool and now kindergarten called Natural Choice Academy in Phoenix, Arizona, and he is doing things differently in his business. And I think that you guys would really enjoy some of the advice he shared with me and some of his experience in business. So, Ted, I'd love to start off by having you introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about who you are and what you do at Natural Choice.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me, Tina. Again, I'm Ted. I own Natural Choice Academy, which is a preschool located in Phoenix, Arizona. We provide childcare services for children age 1 through 5. And as a result of COVID, we pivoted and created a kindergarten. So we now provide services for children up to age 6. We've been in business for 9 years tomorrow. Tomorrow is actually our 9-year anniversary. And it has been a fun and joyous experience growing this business. As I think I've shared with you, and I tell everybody, I'm the last person on planet Earth that should own a preschool because I'm terribly unqualified to do that. I've never been in a preschool until we owned this one. But I think that gave me the right kind of perspective to look at things from a different angle. And it's been an exciting, wonderful, scary, tumultuous, rewarding, terrifying 9 years. But this is the best thing I've ever done. And I have more fun doing this every day than I've ever had doing anything else, even during these crazy times. I feel like my skills are tested and used in ways that most people would never be able to fully understand, but it's fun. I love every minute of it.
So you said that business was crazy and tumultuous and scary and exciting. I think that's, if you feel those ways about business, you're born to be an entrepreneur because you come back every single day. Like it's crazy, but I love it. I mean, I feel that way about accounting pros. It is very scary sometimes, but most of the time I'm like, yeah, let's get this done. So I think we probably share the same excitement and nervous excitement and enthusiasm. I know that you actually didn't, you mentioned you didn't work in a daycare before this, and you've shared with me previously that you were in banking. So tell me, how did you actually get into the preschool business? What was the catalyst to get this business started?
Um, so yeah, background. I started as a banker. I was 17 years old, I think, 17 years old, and I walked into every bank in downtown Phoenix and said, "Hi, I want to work here." And I can't believe how any of them hired me, but one of them did, and I started working as a bank teller, and then I spent the next 18 years working in the banking world, and I worked up from a banker all the way to being a commercial lender, which any business owner will probably know that their banker, the guy that actually, guy or gal, that lends them the money is perhaps one of the most important people they meet. And so I had the joy and privilege of doing that for a big part of my career, helping other small businesses. And so what happened was the story is that about, let's see, 11 years ago now, my wife and I, along with her sister, we would always have family brunches. So Jenna's parents, my wife Jenna, her parents, they do family brunch every Sunday. And so we would have typical family Sunday brunch. We're all sitting around talking about what's going on. At the time, her sister Allison was the director of a small preschool. I was a banker. My wife was working in an elementary school. And Allison was telling some stories about things that were happening in the preschool. And I think I said it, but Jenna is convinced she did, so I'm going to say she said this. And so, or maybe it was Allison, I don't remember, but somebody said, "Hey, we should just open up our own preschool." And so that kind of came up during this brunch, and then it wasn't really talked about much again after that. So for about 2 years, it sort of was there. Maybe occasionally we'd say we should open up a preschool. But then one January day in 2011, my wife announced that there was a second line on one of those sticks that you ladies like to pee on, and we were pregnant. And I think it was about 2 days later that she was in the shower. Um, Anybody who has been married and doesn't have kids yet knows you actually get to spend time together, like in the mornings. And so she's in the shower, I'm shaving or something, and she says, maybe now is the time to do that preschool we've been talking about. And that was all I needed to hear because 8 months later, we opened for business. So we very quickly found a location and built a business plan and opened up this preschool school. We opened on a Monday. My son was born on Friday. And so we literally, gave birth to two babies within the same week, is how I like to talk about that. And so that's the true story. We opened for business. We opened our preschool because we wanted to build the preschool that we would send our own children to. And that's exactly what we have. My own daughter is in our kindergarten class down the hall right now.
Amazing. I can't believe that you did both things on the same week. I mean, that sounds really insane, but I know that you are very passionate and you get stuff done. So congratulations. And 9 years. I think I'm probably going to mess the statistic up, but I believe it's 30% of businesses fail within the first 2 years. And I think it's 50% fail within the next 5 years. So you have made it, and then you've made it again and have continued to iterate and change, just grow over time. You've mentioned that you had created that business plan in the very beginning. So if you were to look back on your business plan today, how do you think your business has evolved over time? You've mentioned kindergarten, but I know that there's been a lot of things in the meantime. So tell me what the differences you think are.
It's funny that you say that because I literally read the business plan over again, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. I pulled it out and just for nostalgia, I read it all over again. And to be honest, I was still really impressed with the thing. But it's changed so much. Um, you know, the best laid plans, the moment you try to actually execute them, things come up that we didn't think of. But ultimately, the biggest changes that have happened are that we built culture as the most important piece of our business, and culture was nowhere in our business plan. We now have core values that drive every decision that we make. Those were nowhere in our business plan. And so the things that are really important to us today had absolutely no presence in our initial plans. And to be honest, we could not have written core values back then that would even apply anymore today. Um, it took us going through the process, getting the scars, figuring out what's important in order to do those things. So today we lead with culture all the time, and we lead with core values with every single decision. There's nothing that we do that does not point back to our core values. I mean, literally nothing. And everybody in our business, every member of our team is empowered to challenge the way we do things based on those core values. It's a great day when somebody on our team says, "Hey, how does that fit with our core values?" They are 100% empowered to ask that question. And that is the biggest accomplishment that I'm probably most proud of over those 9 years, is that today we have a culture that is strong, unified, that we're all singing from the same sheet of music. We don't all do things the same way. Everybody has 10 different ways of wanting to do something, but we all know why we're doing those things. And the why is consistent amongst the entire team. And that is the biggest thing that's different today from 9 years ago.
So I have to ask, what are the core values of Natural Choice Academy, and how are you actually sharing that with your team? I think that's a hard thing to build and discover. So tell me, what are your core values?
All right, so I'm sitting in our lounge right now. Hopefully there's enough power for me to unplug this. And I'll take you over to the wall here. So here they are. Uh, so they're everywhere in the building. I'll read them to you while you're looking at them. So the first one is, we are guardians of childhood. All who enter are loved. All who stay are safe. Children learn through emergent natural play. We are always learning and growing. We model respect for our planet and all its inhabitants. And what is right for children is right for our business. These are the 6 of them. So let's talk about what they are, what they mean, and how we share them. So people who know me know that when I come to school, I'm not here every day. But when I am here, I have 2 jobs. The first one is I compliment somebody. It really is that simple. I literally do 2 things every time I am here. I find somebody and I compliment something that I've heard. Now I do that by asking lots of questions. So I just listen. I talk to various people throughout the day, and I just listen. And so whenever I hear something, I make sure I go and I compliment somebody because of something that I heard. So I always compliment somebody every day, and then I always talk about the core values every day. So every single day that I am on this campus, I say something from the core values. today I posted our 9-year anniversary message to our team in Slack, and it talked about our core values. So they're not just words on the wall, although they are on every single wall in every single classroom. There's not a space in this building that does not have our core values posted on them. What's more important is we talk about them constantly. And everybody knows that Ted is going to talk about the core values sometime today. Everybody knows that Jenna is going to talk about the core values sometime today. And so they permeate who we are and what we do. They are omnipresent in every single thing that happens. And so I think that's the key for how we do it. But we also, like I said earlier, we empower our team members. They know that the core values aren't just mine, they are theirs. And they are absolutely able to keep me accountable to our core values in the same way that we keep them accountable. Now, I'll say that the core values were perhaps the biggest thing in our response to COVID. We wrote them 3 years ago, so we had no idea that there was going to be a pandemic someday. But when we were making our decisions as we were coming to face the challenges that COVID brought to our business, every single time we were making decisions, we looked at our core values. And so we weren't mandated to close. We closed back in March. It was a choice that we made. Preschools were exempted from the stay-at-home order, so we could have stayed open. But we have this core value that says that all who enter are loved and all who stay are safe. And we said we can't deliver on that core value based on the information out there with this pandemic right now. And so it was really easy to choose to close because our core values told us that we should close. And so we did. And everybody understood that. There wasn't any reservation about making that decision. And so there's countless times that when we look at any decision that we're facing, we ask ourselves whether it lives up to our core values. And everybody that works here, every single person knows those core values are going to be talked about constantly. We have a team training tonight. We do this once a month for our entire team. We close the school early so that everybody can get to professional development night, and they're going to hear the core values tonight. They're all going to hear them. That's just what we do all the time.
I also worked in banking a long time ago. I was a loan officer. And I remember when I went to go work for this new company down in Austin, Texas, they gave me the core values and mission statement on a piece of paper. And my very first day, they said, okay, we need you to memorize this. So I read it, I memorized it, I recited it, and I passed their test, I guess. And we never spoke of core values or mission statement or anything ever again. It was never integrated into the company culture. In fact, there was very little work, on the company culture. And so I felt like, everybody was constantly working against themselves. We never really had a common theme or a common vision. And so it just wasn't a very cohesive team. And I imagine working on a team that is constantly talking about, what are our core values and what can we do to honor those is going to be more cohesive, is going to share the same vision, and is going to, go after the same things. I think it's important that it's not just documented somewhere and forgotten about it. You actually have to live it and breathe it for it to become your company culture.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, when we wrote ours, it was an entire full day process. And we had some goals in mind for who our core values were going to be about. And I'll tell you, the process of writing them has to be introspective. It has to be contentious. We fought about some of these values. But I'll tell you what, they apply in so many scenarios. We, as a nation, have been dealing with this question about equity and about representation and about police violence and demonstrations, and our core values apply to that too. And we were messaging with our team and said, look, our core value is that we model respect for all of the planet's inhabitants. And how we model respect is that, people on our team, people in our community, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of what perceptions we have to model this. And so it's interesting how many times our core values have applied in scenarios that we never thought they would. They weren't meant to be done for coronavirus. They weren't meant to talk about Black Lives Matter. They weren't meant to talk about um, 100 scenarios, but they still do. They still apply. And that's what we love about them. And I would encourage any small business, any business, to be introspective and thoughtful in the process of creating core values, but most importantly, make sure it permeates. Because if they're just words on a wall, it doesn't make a difference. But here, it's we talk about it constantly. They get tired of it, but they know what I'm going to talk about today.
Right. Complement core values. Well, I know, so those are really written about like children and coming in and being safe and really helping them to grow and learn. But those core values also extend to the team because I know that your team are the highest paid childcare providers in the state, I think in Colorado, I'm sorry, in Arizona. Is that right?
So it's hard to say that they're the highest paid because there are Head Start programs that have federal funding, and they actually outpace us a little bit. But for the typical private preschool of our size, we paid dramatically better than the average preschool out there. Typically about $2 to $3 an hour more. There's a handful that may be able to outpace us, but again, at the size and if we're comparing apples to apples, we're definitely far and away better than the average, and better than I would say we're probably in the 95th percentile if we wanted
Right.
to be specific. But it wasn't always that way. That wasn't how we always have been. In fact, I'm ashamed of how much we used to pay our teachers. Um, and let me go out on a limb here and say that owning our former mistakes and saying we were wrong to do this, we were wrong about the way we went about something, is part of our culture. I'm one of the first people here to admit when we were wrong and when we make mistakes. And so we looked 2 years ago now at the wages we were paying, and we said to ourselves, we need to know more. And we started polling our teachers, like, hey, how many of you have to have a second job in order to make your rent? How many of you have had food insecurity in the last 30 days? We asked questions not just like, hey, how much money do you want to make? It was literally, what is your life like because of money? And then we started asking questions like, how much do you have to make in that second job in order to cover your bills? How much how much debt are you carrying relative to supporting just your livelihood? How many of you have access to $200 in the event that something, if your car breaks down tomorrow? I read a lot, and so as I started learning what's happening in the world, we started asking our team what was happening in their lives. We said, we have a role to play in making it so that our teachers are not food insecure and that they don't have to keep a second job in order to make their rent or their mortgage payments. If you can't have a livelihood if you can't live off of your primary source of income, that's a problem that is not just theirs. I own that problem because I'm creating part of that problem. And so I took it upon ourselves to solve that problem. And I'll tell you the numbers, Tina, we're not crazy. For the average team member who needed a second job, they needed to earn $200 a month more. $200 a month. I can figure out how to find $200 a month for 10 people or 20 people. It's not that hard. And so we went about a process and we said, how do we get there? We knew that we needed to raise prices, but we also knew that because of the type of business that we're in, if we humanize the costs, if we humanize what this means, then we will have support in raising our prices and distributing that increased price to support our team members. And we had zero resistance, zero. We laid out a plan. We said, this is exactly how we are going to get here. We're going to raise prices. We're going to raise our wages dramatically, and then we will have to raise prices to make that happen. And we had, again, zero resistance. Every family was in support of it. And the moment people humanized the cost, they were on board. And I have never looked back at that decision as anything other than the best decision I could have made for our team. I have no regrets. And in fact, I still feel that we haven't done enough. There's more we need to be doing. And so as I look to the future, how to increase wages for our team members is always near the top of my list of concerns, especially now with COVID. By the
Right.
way, none of our goals have changed. COVID hasn't changed. So as I sit here today, we were closed for 4 months, zero revenue, not a penny came in. We participated in PPP, which was a double-edged sword I can talk about for 2 hours, but
Oh, I could talk about it all day.
it's not my favorite government program.
Yeah.
And but we took advantage. We used it. But as I sit here today, after 4 months of being closed, 100% of the people that work in my building today worked for us back in March. So we were able to retain 100%. The team that we have is 100% of the team that we had before, although we did have to downsize. And that's unfortunate. And I wish we didn't have to do that, but we did. In order to maintain the safety of the children and the safety of our team, we had to make some cuts. And for team members that aren't with us anymore, we wish them well. And we're sorry that we weren't able to support that afterwards. But all of our team members are earning the same income that they earned back in March. Nobody had to take a pay cut. I took a pay cut, but Jenna took a pay cut, but that's the price that ownership pays.
Right.
I don't expect anybody to feel sorry for us. That's the deal we sign up for as entrepreneurs. But I would never work. It's not worth it for me to know that the way I make more money is that my team members become food insecure again.
Right.
I can't sleep like that.
I think that's an important thing that business owners need to consider is not only how you can make a living, but how do you support your team? We'll get into metrics and those things later, but if I were a parent of a child that needed to go to a preschool, I would want the teacher to be present and not hungry and happy. You want them to bring their best self to work. And if they're worrying about making a car payment or buying food, those things are going to cloud their thoughts and they're not going to be fully present or happy. I want people who are happy around, and you want to be able to feel like you're supporting your community and you're not taking from your community. So even though you've made mistakes in the past, which all business owners have made mistakes, that's just part of the game. It's just what happens. But owning those mistakes, making changes, and then moving forward positively, I think is the best course of action. And, I know that you are a strategic thinker. You don't just make decisions willy-nilly. You don't fly by the seat of your pants, even though you might say you do. I know you don't, when you're being modest. So I think that you bring your competitive advantage is not only how you take care of your team and the children around you. It is also about how you take care of the vision of the business. So, we have spoken previously in other conversations. You've mentioned to me that part of your competitive advantage is how you actually plan for the future. So tell me a little bit about what your thought process looks like when you're thinking about making changes or just looking to the year ahead.
Yeah, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some of this. Look, I love the work that we do here is different. We're not making widgets. We're not selling, a commodity item. We're literally impacting people's lives, and so the human aspect of what we do here is absolutely paramount to everything that we do. But we're still a business, and because we're still a business, my business hat is on probably more than anything else. And so, as I talk about the business of our business, it can seem to have rougher edges, perhaps. So in the interest of ensuring that there's balance, I want to say I love every human that's in our building, but what you hear from me now is definitely the cold-edged business side of running a business. And so that is pretty straightforward and simple. I have very, very few things that I focus on. The one that I think is perhaps the single biggest is margin. I focus on margin a lot, and I'm talking gross margin. the secret success of what we do at our preschool is that we are able to maintain high margin because we charge more. We are more expensive than the average, competitor out there. I have a saying. I have lots of TEDisms. Everybody that is around me knows this. One of them is if you win on price, you will lose on price. And so I try to make price not even part of the equation. I don't care what my competitors charge as long as it's less than me. And that sounds crude, but it is the truth because maintaining margin is the singular focus that I have. And so every decision that we make is how does this support us maintaining margin? So examples, we make constant investments into our physical space. So our campus is constantly being renovated, improved. We spent $250,000 redoing our playgrounds 3 years ago. And then in January, I spent another $50,000 in our playgrounds. Most people would think that's insane. Why would you do that? Well, the answer is simple. It lets us keep margin. We can spend $50,000 one time, and it allows us to collect 1% more, 2% more into perpetuity. For me, cash flow is about long-term value. I'm happy to make short-term cash investments that provide long-term margin. I'm always playing the long game. Even today, as I sit here right now in September of 2020, I'm looking at what's the world going to be like in August of 2021, in September of 2022, when I know that COVID is behind us, and I know that we're able to regain normalcy. How do I maintain margin next year, and the year after that, and the year after that? And so every investment that we make is about maintaining margin. We sell a premium product at a premium price, and the only way that we will be able to continue to do that is if we continue to invest in creating that premium experience. And so being premium requires a tremendous amount of constant improvement. But that's why we have this crazy core value that says that we are always learning and growing. And everybody around here knows that we are never going to stop changing. We are always changing. I say we're like a shark. If a shark wants to survive, it has to swim. Sharks don't sleep. They don't stop swimming. They always have to swim. So I'm not a, carnivorous attacking animal, but I'm always swimming. We never, ever settle with, hey, we finally got there. There is no there.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't say, well, I'm here now, I'm going to rest, or I'm going to just let the business run itself. When you
That
do
will
that,
never happen.
you'll slip and then the business will eventually fail. You have to constantly look at, what's working for us now, what's going to work for us in the future, what do people want, what are the trends that are happening, what are people asking for? And if you're not spending that time thinking about it and constantly investing your own, time and your own energy into making that happen, then, you're not going to survive. You'll get eaten by another shark.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm a big believer in maintaining competitive advantage. Look, when we opened 11 years ago, or 9 years ago, sorry, and the idea was 11 years ago, we were the first preschool in the country to focus on being organic. I actually own the domain organicpreschool.com. You'd think in 2011 that preschool, that domain would be gone, but I own it because nobody had done it before us. Now, there may have been a few others out there, but we really owned that space. But people don't know us as that anymore because you can't maintain that. Somebody's going to come and take that. And so there's other schools that serve organic food and they do all that stuff. So what we did instead was we just continued to focus on what is the best fill in the blank. What is the best classroom furniture? What is the best teaching methods? What is the best food? We know what that is. We got that one. And so in order to maintain that premium aspect, whatever the best is of whatever, that's what we get. And that is what we do. And we spend a tremendous amount of time researching and investing in those adjuncts to our operation. really is part of our core values, that we are always learning and growing. And as a result, we never settle. I mean, never. I'm never going to say we did it. That will never happen. And everybody here knows that. Like, that's, I think, the biggest thing is everybody that works at this school knows that we are never done changing. We are never done tweaking. So, and sometimes that means that those tweaks, aren't going to work, and that's okay. Like,
You mean
there's
like a
one,
tweak doesn't work out, like it's a flop?
sure,
Yeah, of
absolutely.
course.
One of the, there's one here, I'm going to teach an entrepreneur word that everybody needs to know: sunk costs. Because I don't give a shit about sunk costs. They're gone. I am probably one of the few people out there that does not care. I like to play poker, and there's a phrase in poker called pot committed, which is when you've invested, you've bet so much that you should just keep betting because you got to see how it ends. I don't think that way when it comes to business. I am perfectly fine cutting my losses and just saying, well, shit happens. And so sunk costs, I, you know, the people that around me don't hear that word, but I know it. And I'm not afraid to cut my losses and just say, hey, that didn't work. It's okay. And we're going to move on. And I'm looking towards the future. So what we did yesterday doesn't matter anymore. It's what we're going to do tomorrow. And how do we maintain margin? That's like the single biggest thing. And is an investment today going to help me maintain that margin a year from now or 2 years from now? Those are the things I care about the most. So COVID, in a surprising way, is going to allow us to maintain margin a year from now because of the way that we were able to pivot and build a business model that functions in this new world. And as a result, we were able to raise our prices, and prices go up, they don't go down. And so we've set a new floor for what our prices look like. And that's something that if I'm going to look for silver lining in this cloud of shit, I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse?
You can do whatever you want. Yes, I'll say it too. Shit. Okay, there, we're
Uh,
even.
no, if there's a silver lining, it's that we've set a new floor for price, and that price doesn't go down. I've never lowered prices, but that's because we keep delivering on what people come to expect for that price. Uh,
I think
that
that's the silver lining in the cloud of shit. That's hilarious. I actually really think that there are some good things that have come out of COVID. I mean, obviously, it's terrible that people are sick and are dying and are continuing to do so, and it's heartbreaking. However, the good stuff that's happened is, for at least for our business and for yours as well, those things will carry forward year over year. And just like you, we don't, I also don't like worry about sunk costs. If I want to change something, I change it, and that's that. And I'm sure my team hates me for it, but it helps us become better and more relevant. But over the last couple of months, I've found different ways of serving our clients that we hadn't really thought about in the past. And I won't go too deeply into what, about us, because this is really about learning from you. But those lessons that I've learned, even though it was in the worst circumstance at the worst time, I mean, it's always terrible time for a pandemic, but there is a silver lining. And if you can take a step back and think about the future and not be bogged down with constant pressure, constant work, creating the space for you to think about the future, then you're in a better position. And I know you said you only come into the office or come into the building a couple times a week. The rest of the time, I know you're not sitting around, watching soap operas. You're thinking about the future. You're reading about what's actually happening, and you're considering the possibilities. And if you're working 80 hours a week, like some business owners do when they first get started and continue to carry it forward, you won't have that openness in your schedule or in your mind to be able to actually make change happen. So before you get to shark mode, I think you need to get in the getting rid of stuff mode, like get rid of the tasks that are you don't need to be doing that somebody else could be handling. Get rid of the things that are really weighing you down mentally, so that when it comes time to actually sit down and think and ponder and not feel like you've got to answer the phone, 100 times, you actually have the time. That's really important. And not many people learn that lesson, or if they learn it, it's way too late.
I'll tell you, I am the luckiest small business owner I know because I literally have no idea how 70% of the stuff that happens in my business actually happens. I have no idea, like zero. But I have 100% trust in the people whose job it is to do those things. And so I don't, like the other day I walked in and I was like, I was asking people, I'm like, who's supposed to be here today? Because I actually have no idea how things work. And so that privilege and that ability is frees up the capacity for me to absorb information about what is happening in the world. I'm a I read a lot about just world events, local events. I'm not into pop culture, but I sure as hell read a lot about stuff, and that influences my strategy about where we're going and what's coming and what our customers need from us in the future. For example, we families want more connection and more communication between the classrooms and their children. And that's something that's not a new trend. Everybody wants that. And there's tons and tons of companies out there developing software for this. But we've been using Slack internally for like 4 years now. And so we just said, look, we'll just turn Slack on for our customers. And so we literally just created a whole Slack workspace for our customers. And so we now have what we call Family Slack, and it's great. Like, we've created our own little social media ecosystem using free software so that everybody can communicate and connect. And that's what the younger, parents they're going to want that stuff. And so, we're never done figuring out how to do this and just trying shit. And by the way, it's like my third time trying one of these ways to do it, but Slack has turned out to be the best one.
Yeah.
We experiment all the time. And how do we do this? Well, we think like, okay, we've got to be on social media, which we do that, but we've got to do more than just be on social media. We've got to create our own social media here, and Slack allowed us to do that within our own little community. I think everybody in business needs to think about how they are connecting with their customers and creating relationships with them. And the old ways, I can't tell you how many emails I get from some vendor, who's like, hey, I want to know more about you. And it's like, honestly, Tina, I think what you do with your Facebook group for your customers, like, I love that stuff.
Thanks. And I don't love Facebook, but in the beginning of this pandemic, I was like, okay, I have a lot of information that needs to get out, and it needs to get out like now. I don't want to write like a formal email and put them on a list and get, I need you to know this is the program you need to apply for today, or this is what we're helping you with right now. And it served the purpose in the moment, but I really love being able to connect with my clients because and number one, it keeps them happy, which makes them stickier. They want to stick around with people who are going to actually care about their business and who they are, as people. So I think we share the same thing. We're not doing it in Slack, but we found the medium that works for each of us.
What's cool, just a quick aside, I love you may not be aware, but to me, you are a brand. And when I see that other people are interacting with the stuff that you're putting out in social media, I say to myself, well, if they are Tina's customers, then they've crossed a hurdle in terms of like, I already trust that person more because they're doing business with you because I love what you guys do. And I know that like, if you had crappy customers, they wouldn't be your customers.
Yep. That's true.
Right. So it's like, you are my filter. Like if somebody is your customer, I automatically trust what they're thinking and I want to know what they're doing.
That's
because then you're
amazing.
not going to have crappy customers.
Right.
And so that's what I honestly think that that's where the future is, hey, we are all customers of this whatever because we all share similar ideas. We have different the way we think about things. And that's what doing Family Slack has done for our business. It's because if you are my customer, you have certain views or certain things that you believe in. That's why you're here. So let's expand your social network to include the people that we've already filtered for you.
Exactly.
We've already filtered out, the people who are going to take away and detract from your quality of life. And as a result, you have trust and faith that the people that are here at our school have similar values, and that's a good thing. I believe the same is true in your network. If you filtered out a certain segment of customers, so I know that when I look at the posts that you're putting in social media and the comments coming from other people, those people have similar values that I do because I think what you guys do is so good. And I think small businesses that are going to win in the future are ones that aren't just selling a product or a service, but they're selling a product or a service that meets the needs and the values of their customers. Because if you can align your values as a business with the values of your customers, they're your customer for life.
Right.
For
You
life.
know, so I'd mentioned one of the reasons that I wanted to get people together in our private, Facebook group was to share information. The other thing that I really wanted to do was share the voice or share the wisdom or the story of all of our customers and kind of get everybody in the same room, which is really hard to do when we work remotely.
Right.
Because there's always something to learn, but you want to work with people who you like. You want to hire someone who's a great graphic designer, but is also a kick-ass person who you think is, got your best interest in mind, or an IT guy who's going to really, make sure that all of your needs are met and are going to be active listening throughout the conversation and providing real value to your business. If I was just bringing everybody that calls me on the phone into this private Facebook group, it would just be a bunch of noise. So we do a lot of in our customer vetting process. I say no a lot, which means that we are making less money than we could be, but at the same time, we're not. Our customers stay around for a really long time. Our employees stay around for a really long time, and we're constantly helping people improve and building their own personal wealth and success. And it's because we have that common shared vision. We really get along. I say I wouldn't bring a customer on if I wouldn't have a beer with them. And if they don't drink, maybe it's a cup of tea or whatever. But if we can't sit down and talk like this, that means that they're not going to trust us to do the really interesting work or the really hard work that we have to do, because there's always going to be barriers, or they're just not going to see the value in what we do. Which kind of leads me to another thing. I'm sorry, you've got
I
a
just
point,
have
so go
to echo
ahead.
something that you said, because you said that you say no a lot. And I'll tell you, saying no is one of my favorite things on the planet. I love saying no. There are somebody's having ice behind me, so I'm going to mute this for a sec.
I'm going to jump in and say I learned how to say no really well from having a child. So he was the practice that I needed in order to actually say no to clients. And at the very beginning, it was super hard to say no. I felt like it was a rejection of the person, or like I didn't like them, or they would feel bad about saying no. But if I could take a step back and say, I'm saying no because if I say yes, it's going to be wrong for the business. The customer's not going to be happy. My team's not going to be happy. It'll lower our company morale. It'll eventually become something, worse than just saying no. I make the decision that I'm going to say the hard thing now because it's more impactful, in the future and in the present. And just bite the bullet right away, and just make it really quick, like ripping off a Band-Aid. But it took a long time to get there. And sorry, go right ahead to your point.
No, but you're exactly right. I love saying no, but it wasn't always easy to do that, especially when we were first starting out. And anybody who wanted to give me $1, I was excited to collect that from them. But I learned the hard way that I would rather get the right dollars than just having them. And so we say no a lot. And we have lots of systems to screen our customers out early. And we go, I like to say that you have to have high hurdles. So we create high hurdles specifically so that if a customer wants to become our customer, now this is counterintuitive, and every marketer that you talk to is going to tell you don't do it this way, but this is how we do it and it works for us. We make it hard to become our customer, because if you overcome hurdles to become my customer, then you're going to stick around. And so we create high hurdles on purpose. You know, if a customer pre-COVID, tours are like a big thing for preschools. People want to tour the preschool. So we would have customers walk in the front door unannounced and say, hey, we're looking for a new preschool. Could we get a tour? And our answer is no. You have to schedule your tour. And if you don't schedule your tour, then we won't give you a tour. And I had people look at me and go, what do you mean you won't give us a tour? And I
Don't you
actually
want
have
my money? Don't you want to take my money?
I have a 1-star review on Yelp because we not only did we tell them we won't give them a tour, we told them that there's no room for their child and there won't be for a year, so don't even bother. And we probably could have said it nicer. It wasn't me that said it, but the point is, we don't let the customer dictate how we provide our service. That the customer is always right, that shit is over. And so I want the right customers to give me the right kind of business for the right reasons. You know, we're building, this is long-term recurring revenue here. I'm not selling you a used car. And so as a result, we say no a hell of a lot more than we say yes. And when we do say yes, we know that it's going to work for the long term. Another one of my TEDisms, these are lots of them, I tell people we have to aim for the fat part of the bell curve. I say that every situation out there, there's a bell curve for how our customers are going to react to this, how our teachers will react to this, what people want. And I always say we have to aim for the fat part. You know, I don't care about the outliers. There's always going to be somebody on the edges. I can't spend my life dealing with the edges. The fat part of the bell curve is where I focus. And so we continue to actually narrow our focus to make sure that we have more people that fit exactly within what we provide, as opposed to trying to drag people into our bell curve. It's the opposite. We tighten. We keep tightening more and more our niche. We tighten closer to what we do. And frankly, COVID has allowed us to do that in some ways. In ways I wouldn't have expected 6 months ago. COVID has created these social stances that have really defined value and more so. And as a result, we now know more about our customers than we would have ever dreamed. But I have 100 children in the building today, and I know that 100 of those children are being safe when they're outside of my building just as much as they are when they're in my building. And that matters a lot when we're talking about a pandemic.
No, it really does. And to mirror what you said a second ago, you can't be all things to all people. If you try to do that, you're going to fail, or it's going to be really, really hard. And previous in the conversation, you had mentioned, following certain metrics. So one of the metrics you had mentioned was gross margin. And if anybody doesn't know what gross margin is, you take revenue, you subtract your cost of goods sold or cost of sales. So what you're actually spending to earn that revenue, that's your gross profit. If you divide gross profit by your revenue, that's your gross profit margin. So that's what Ted was talking about. But there's a lot of factors that really lead up to that. We've kind of talked about that through the conversation. You want your employees to be happy. You want your clients to be happy. You want the children to be happy as part of your core values. All those things lead to your gross profit. If you have happy people, you can earn more money because you can charge more. People stay. You don't have the retraining costs it takes in order to get somebody onboarded. So I think a lot of people focus on lagging indicators, which are things like gross profit margin, net profit margin, different ratios on your balance sheet, which are indeed very, very helpful. But if you're seeing a number that you don't like, or things aren't making sense, those are really a way to indicate that you need to look at the root cause of a problem or what's going really well, if you really love the numbers. So in your case, you've already figured out, if I keep my customers happy, it influences my overall profitability. And I think that if a lot of people just need to step back and spend the time to introspect or really define what is influencing the end result, because the success isn't happening to you, or the lack of success isn't happening to you. You create the success with all the steps that you make, and eventually will lead to that final financial statement that tells you, like a report card, that I did a good job or I need to do some work. Are there any other lagging indicators that you think are important to follow? I know net promoter score for customers is really big, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so we love Net Promoter Score. That's our favorite indicator when we're looking for something that's measurable. Um, Another thing that everybody around me knows is that I love data, and so they actually have a drinking game around here. Whenever I say the word, what's the data show? They all pretend to take shots. So they all know that I will always look at the data. But I'll tell you why, and that's because perceptions and feelings and data don't always jive. And so I hear lots of people tell me what they think, but hey, what's the data show us? So we look at lots of data. So Net Promoter Score is our favorite data, our measurable method of understanding our customer satisfaction. So we use software to do that, to send out Net Promoter Scores to all of our customers, and we capture that information live. But I also have the benefit of interacting face to face with my customers, or at least our school does. I'm not here, but people are. And so because of those face to face interactions, we're constantly measuring mood, even though people don't know that we are. We know whether somebody's happy or not happy well before they give us a Net Promoter Score. Yeah, I mean, you can see it. Even with a mask on, you can tell if someone's smiling.
Yep, it's all in the eyes.
And so we're constantly measuring those things. Now, the most important people in that equation are actually our team members. I love my customers, but they are not nearly as important as our team members. If I have to pick between having a teacher that is happy and a parent that is happy, the teacher every single time. It's actually in our core values that all who enter and all who stay are safe, all includes my teachers. And so I have had situations in the past where, I had to choose between a team member and a parent, and the team member wins every time, 100%.
Yep, I'm with you there for sure.
You're batting 1,000 on that one. And so what we're looking for is what are the eyes of our team members showing us? What is, how are they walking when they walk in the door? Are they making eye contact? We work really, really hard. If somebody just isn't connecting through those brief interactions in a hallway, they will have somebody come up to them and say, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? What's on your mind? They'll get a Slack message like, hey, you seemed a little distant this morning. What's going on? And so we are touching our team members constantly. And HR people in the world, it's not actual touching.
I was going to say, maybe we should clarify that it's not physical, yeah, or inappropriate.
Yeah,
But no, I get it. You have to have multiple touch points to just check in and say, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Are you happy? Because people want to work in a place where they feel valued and where they feel like they can make a difference. And if they stop feeling that way, they're going to look elsewhere. And it's your job to protect the students as well as the teachers. And when somebody crosses a line, for example, one of your parents, for example, they're rude or they do something that is off-putting or mean to one of your team members. I mean, if that were me, the customer is gone, because I need to make sure that we're respected, just as like what you're doing with your teachers, and we feel like we're valued and we're not just another warm body in a seat, because that's not what we are and that's not what you are.
Yeah, and the reason we are so much in contact with our team members is because of our core values. We talked about modeling respect. Well, if I can see that one of my teachers is just not herself or himself on this particular day, and somebody comes up to them and says, hey, what's going on? You feeling okay? We are modeling respect. And that modeling of respect is in reinforcing the concept that they then do that when they see a parent or they see a child who is experiencing those same kinds of emotions. And so we can't have two sets of rules where we treat customers with this really great way because they pay us, and we treat our team members in this other way because we pay them. That doesn't make sense. And so I know I've said it already, but the core value applies to everybody. And so by modeling these concepts with our team members, they then do it with their customers, their children, and it happens all throughout the entire school. Everybody here is empowered to see somebody who is upset and say, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about your feelings. Yesterday, no, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, there was a parent who was having what I'll just refer to as a tough drop-off with their child. And it was a very tough one. And he probably got a little too upset. And that happens. And so I was observing that. I happened to be here. I was observing it. And I came up to him and I said, hey, do you need some help right now? And what happened doesn't matter. Yesterday and today, I had 2 or 3 parents come to me and say, hey, I saw what you did. And thank you. And that's about modeling respect. That's about the core values. And so, by the way, I would do the same for a team member. I would do the same for anybody because we model that respect. And if I didn't do that then the parents, our customers don't feel valued. So I know I sound like a broken record, but we live these core values.
Well, I mean, you're living it. It's not just a document that's sitting aside, on your desk where you ask people to memorize it like another company did with me. And actions speak louder than words. I mean, you can tell people these are our core values until you're blue in the face, but it's those moments when you have to deal with difficult situations that the core values actually come alive. And I think that if you were just to have the core value and repeat it, but then not follow through with those types of behaviors, then, they're meaningless. So I think it's important that if you are going to set them, that they do make sense for you and your business. They're going to be different business to business. Your core values are not the same as mine, which are not the same as somebody else's. So if anybody is listening, they shouldn't be. If anybody is listening, I think one of the key takeaways of this conversation is, make the time to really think about where do you want the vision of the business to go, and how do your values and your clients and your employees, how do the values align, and how can you build a business where that is at the center, the forefront of every conversation. So, I mean, I'll go ahead. I know I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I absolutely love hearing from you, but
I have to say one more.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Because I haven't talked about this core value.
Oh, sure. Go. Yes.
It's the biggest, and it's the broadest. It's the one that says that what's right for children is right for our business. And it was really important for me to put that one in our core values. And the reason why is simple. And that is because in my business, and in probably everybody's business, there are things they can do to cut corners that nobody would notice. When I talk about our business, I say I'm in this weird business where the service we provide is paid for by somebody who does not receive that service. So, and the service that we provide, the people we provide the service to don't know the difference. So we're talking about children who are 2, 3, 4 years old. They are the ones that we provide the service for, and they don't know whether or not we're doing something good or bad. And the people that are paying for it aren't here to see that. So that is a weird, weird place to be. But that's why we wrote it in our core value, because what's right for them, for the children, is right for us. And I can't tell you how many times I could make small tweak here, small tweak there, and I would make more money. But it's not right for the kids. And so that measure, that check, is omnipresent. When we were going through all of the changes that we went through, we said to ourselves, how is this right for kids? If it's not right for kids first, then it's definitely for us. And so we look at the business backwards. If we say, is this right for if it's right for the children, if it's right for our team members, if we can live these core values with all of these decisions, then that will be right for our business, not the other way around. We don't do it the other way around. If the only reason we're doing it is to make more money, we just don't do that. We'll be okay. We'll figure out how to make money.
And you can, yeah, you could make money, but at what cost? And not meaning like dollar amount, but like at what cost is it going to be with the children? Are they going to grow up and have a lesser experience or not have, all of the wonderful things that you're giving them, like teaching them with modeling respect and all these things, providing like a wonderful service, a wonderful place to be, feeling welcome, feeling safe. If you cut those corners, it's, it costs more than what you can actually physically see. And it doesn't, the gain is not worth it. And
I
you
like
have
to
to
say
you have
I
to
can't.
get past the immediate like financial gain and look at the long term, which is what you do all the time, the long term
Yeah,
vision and the plan and the benefit.
I like to say I can't own a sizzler because I know there's a better steak.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I haven't been to a Sizzler in a long time, but yeah, I totally understand. We're the same.
I, I,
You know,
I
we're
couldn't do
not
it.
we're not a
I know
budget.
there's a better steak.
Right. We're not budget. We don't provide a low cost, like if somebody's trying to find the lowest cost accountant, it's not us. We're the same thing as same kind of mindset as you. And that was actually a conversation in the very beginning when we were talking about, our fee. Of course, we're going to charge what we think is fair, but you weren't trying to say, let me give you 50% less because I think I can negotiate that. You saw the value in what we do, which impacts your business day to day. I don't know. I just think it's crazy to be the low cost competitor. It's crazy to cut corners. It's crazy to do all those things that people think to do first,
Mhm.
because overall it does not benefit you, the customer. It doesn't benefit me, the owner of my business. And in your situation, it doesn't benefit the children. It's crazy.
I think in today's economic climate, for small businesses to compete, I can't fathom you can do that trying to be a low cost provider of whatever your service is, because there's always going to be somebody that can do it cheaper. That's always going to happen. And so as a result, I think small business owners today, you have to find a niche and you have to try to find a way to a premium price for being in that niche. Whatever your niche is, if you're, whatever it is, getting your niche tighter and trying to maximize the amount that you can charge for that niche is where the future is for small businesses, because the big guys, they'll always crush price because they can.
Exactly. No, they will. You're never going to win when Walmart is down the street.
Hell,
Uh,
Walmart's going to have a hard time
all
against
right,
Amazon.
Amazon. Fine, yeah. Okay, so
So
then if there's a small business owner that's listening to our conversation today and nodding and saying, yeah, yeah, this is exactly what I want. I think for them the key takeaways would be figure out what your core values are, define them and live them and breathe them, share them, make sure everybody is on board and abides by them, and also upgrades them, because businesses change, core values will, change over time as well. So have a team that's willing to step up and say, hey, we need to do things differently because, of XYZ. And then also figuring out who you actually want to serve and how you serve them, and do it impeccably well, and don't be the low cost competitor. So niching, finding something that you can just really kick ass in, not being everything for everybody. And then finally, figuring out what metrics you'd like to track. So things like gross profit margin or net promoter score, or figure out what success means to you, and then find the indicators that lead to that success. So look for the leading and the lagging indicators that will help continue to, with your, continue to help you with your vision over time, or continue to help you execute on your vision over time, because you actually know what the vision is.
yeah, unquestionably, I think you summarized it all perfectly well. Knowing your customer, no, it's true though. Like I think you have to know who your customer is and you have to know who you are, and those two should be simpatico. If they're not, figure that shit out
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's it doesn't work. You can't be
Yeah.
everything to everybody, and everybody is not your customer.
And I think maybe the last one would be own your mistakes, because
Oh yeah,
you're going to screw it up along the way. That's fine. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to evolve. And where you were in month one, year one is different than, month nine, year nine. It's, or whatever. It's different.
And it's
So
okay
be
to
okay with that.
yeah,
Would you
it's
say?
okay to screw up and cut bait when you know
Yeah,
you're doing it.
right. Exactly.
When you're making a mistake, it's okay to stop making them and like something different.
Yeah, get rid of that sunk cost fallacy. Just kick it out the door right now.
That one, honestly, that I guess I have a burr in my saddle over that one because I find so many people are like, well, we're already doing this. It's hard to change. Yeah,
We've done
so
this. We've
what?
always done it this way. Well, that's not the way it should be done. So let's change it.
That's another criticism. I say
Yeah.
the way we, if somebody says that's the way we've always done it, I say it's time to change it.
Oh, I
The way we've
know.
always done it is probably the wrong way to do it.
Well, I appreciate you spending so much time with me today. You've had so
My
many
pleasure.
wonderful TEDisms and wisdom to share, and I hope that anybody listening has been able to take something away from this. I know they have. So
Well, thank
I
you.
will, yeah, I'll make sure if anybody has any questions that they want to come over to you, I will filter them down to you and try to get them answered, but send them my way. And if I can't answer them, try to get an answer from Ted. But yeah, this has been wonderful. So thank you so much for being a friend and a client and an amazing human and a wonderful business owner. I hope that I know you for years and years to come. So thank you
I
so
don't
much.
deserve all your compliments, but right back at
Whatever.
you. I honestly think that I will leave you with a an endorsement for what you guys do, because yeah, I'm only as good as the people I surround myself with, and I know that the bookkeepers and you're more than just bookkeepers. What you guys do makes me and my business a better business and makes me a better business person. And I honestly know that I have a partner for life with what you guys bring to the table. It's you don't just add one plus one equals two. It's so much more than that. And so thank you, Tina. You have been a really, really wonderful partner and a blessing during this crazy time in business and in our country's history. And anybody who's your client is better because of it. So thank you.
I appreciate that so much. All right.
I wish you well.
I wish you well too.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.